The restaurant was the kind of place where reservations were made months in advance, where chandeliers cast soft golden light across marble floors, and where the quiet murmur of conversation was punctuated by the gentle clink of crystal wine glasses. It was a place designed for people who had wealth and wanted everyone to know it, though the truly wealthy often preferred such ostentation, in doses carefully measured. Victoria Ashford stood near the entrance in a champagne-colored silk suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary, her platinum blonde hair falling in perfect waves past her shoulders. She was 38 years old and CEO of Ashford Technologies, a company she'd built from the ground up after her divorce 7 years ago. She had the kind of presence that made people notice her, not just because she was beautiful, but because she carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd fought for everything she had and won. Beside her, holding her hand with a grip that suggested nervousness, was her daughter Lily. The little girl was 6 years old, with light brown hair and wearing a pink dress that she'd insisted on wearing despite Victoria's suggestion of something more sophisticated. Lily clutched a small purse with both hands now, her blue eyes taking in the elegant restaurant with a mixture of wonder and anxiety. "Mommy, are you sure about this?" Lily whispered, looking up at her mother with worried eyes. Victoria knelt down, careful not to wrinkle her suit, and took her daughter's hands. "Sweetheart, remember what we talked about? Mommy has to meet this man for a business dinner. And since Grandma couldn't watch you tonight, you get to come with me. It'll be an adventure. But what if he doesn't like kids? What if I mess up and embarrass you?" Victoria felt her heart clench. Her daughter shouldn't have to worry about such things. But this was the reality of their life. Victoria constantly trying to balance being a successful businesswoman with being a present mother, and Lily bearing the weight of being the child of someone always in the spotlight. "You could never embarrass me," Victoria said firmly. "You're the best thing in my life, and if this Mr. Harrison doesn't understand that a mother sometimes needs to bring her daughter to dinner, then he's not worth doing business with anyway." The truth was, Victoria was dreading this dinner. Robert Harrison was a potential investor, someone whose backing could take Ashford Technologies to the next level, but he'd made it clear he preferred casual settings for business discussions, and tonight was the only evening he had free for the next 2 months. Victoria's regular sitter had fallen through at the last minute, and she'd had no choice but to bring Lily. The hostess led them to their reserved table, and Victoria noticed the subtle glances from other diners. She was used to being recognized, used to the whispers. "That's Victoria Ashford, the tech CEO, the one who..." She knew what they said about her. Ruthless, ambitious, cold. The divorce from Lily's father had been public and ugly, with accusations on both sides that had been splashed across business journals and gossip columns alike. That Victoria had prioritized her company over her marriage. That she was impossible to live with. That she'd changed once she tasted success. Some of it was true. Some of it wasn't. But Victoria had learned to develop thick skin. She had a daughter to raise and a company to run. Other people's opinions couldn't factor into her decisions. They sat at the table, and Victoria ordered a sparkling water for herself and a lemonade for Lily. As they waited, Victoria pulled out her tablet to review her pitch notes one more time. But she kept getting distracted by Lily, who was staring at something across the restaurant with intense fascination. "What are you looking at, sweetheart?" Victoria asked, following her daughter's gaze. At a smaller table near the corner sat a man and a young girl, probably around Lily's age. The man was maybe in his early 30s, with dark brown hair and a short beard, wearing a simple gray t-shirt and jeans that looked distinctly out of place in this elegant restaurant. The little girl wore a pink dress similar to Lily's and was chattering away enthusiastically while the man listened with patient attention. Victoria felt a flash of judgment. Who came to a restaurant like this dressed so casually? But then she saw the way the man looked at his daughter. The absolute devotion in his eyes, the way he leaned in to hear every word she said as if nothing else in the world mattered, and she felt something twist in her chest. When was the last time someone had looked at her that way? When was the last time she'd felt like someone's whole world? "That girl's dress is like mine," Lily observed. "Can I go say hi?" "Lily, we don't just approach strangers." But Lily was already sliding out of her chair and walking toward the other table. Victoria watched in mortification as her daughter approached the man and the girl, clearly introducing herself. The little girl in the pink dress immediately lit up, and the two children started chattering like old friends. Victoria stood up to retrieve her daughter and apologize. But as she approached, she heard the man say, in a voice that was warm and kind, "Well, Emma, it looks like you've made a new friend. That's the best part of going out to dinner, isn't it? Meeting nice people." "Hi," Victoria said, reaching the table. "I'm so sorry. My daughter sometimes forgets about personal boundaries. Lily, come back to our table, please." But the man was smiling, and it was a genuine smile, not the polite but cold expression Victoria usually got from strangers. "It's no problem at all. I'm Ryan, and this is my daughter, Emma. She's been hoping to meet someone her age tonight. We don't get out to fancy restaurants like this very often, and she was feeling a little nervous about being the only kid here." Victoria noticed the way Ryan's clothes, while clean, were slightly worn. The watch on his wrist was a basic model, nothing like the expensive timepiece most men in this restaurant probably wore. His hands bore calluses that suggested manual labor. And when he'd mentioned not getting out to restaurants like this often, there'd been no shame in his voice, just simple honesty. "I'm Victoria," she said, extending her hand. "And this is Lily. We're actually waiting for someone, so I should get back to our table. But it was nice to meet you." "The pleasure was mine," Ryan said, shaking her hand with a grip that was firm but not aggressive. "Lily, it was very nice meeting you. Maybe you and Emma can wave at each other from your tables." Lily beamed at this suggestion and reluctantly followed Victoria back to their seats. As they sat down, Lily immediately started talking. "Mommy, Emma is 6 like me, and she likes the same books I like. And her daddy is a construction worker who builds houses, and they're here for a special celebration. Because Emma got all A's on her report card and—" "That's wonderful, honey," Victoria said, only half listening as she checked her watch. Robert Harrison was now 15 minutes late. "But remember, we're here for my work meeting, so we need to focus on that." "Will your meeting person be nice like Emma's daddy?" Victoria paused. "I don't know, sweetheart. We're meeting to talk about business, not to make friends." "That sounds sad." "Emma's daddy says the best business is when you make friends, too." Victoria felt a pang of something, guilt, regret. She'd built her company on tough negotiations and smart strategies, not on making friends. Maybe that's why she was here alone except for her 6-year-old daughter. Maybe that's why her marriage had failed. Maybe that's why she lay awake. Some nights in her expensive penthouse feeling like something essential was missing from her life. Robert Harrison arrived 25 minutes late, full of apologies that didn't quite ring sincere. He was in his 50s, wearing an expensive suit and the kind of watch that cost more than a car. When he saw Lily at the table, his expression flickered with something like annoyance before settling, back into professional courtesy. "Ms. Ashford, my apologies for the delay. Traffic was impossible. And I see you've brought a guest. My daughter, Lily. I hope you don't mind. My child care arrangement fell through at the last moment." Robert's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Of course. Children are delightful." The way he said it made it clear he found them anything but delightful. And as the dinner progressed, Victoria found herself increasingly uncomfortable. Robert talked at her rather than with her, barely glanced at Lily except to look annoyed when she asked quiet questions, and his interest in Ashford Technologies seemed superficial at best. Halfway through the main course, Lily whispered, "Mommy, I need to use the bathroom." Victoria started to get up, but Robert waved a hand dismissively. "Please don't interrupt our discussion. The child can go alone, can't she? It's just across the room." Victoria felt her jaw tighten. "She's 6 years old. I'm not sending her to the bathroom alone in a restaurant." "You're rather overprotective, aren't you?" "That's the problem with working mothers. They either neglect their children or smother them. No middle ground." Victoria felt her temper flare, but she kept her voice controlled. "Excuse me for just a moment." She took Lily's hand and led her toward the restrooms, her mind already composing the polite, but firm email she'd send tomorrow declining. Robert's investment. She didn't need his money badly enough to tolerate his condescension. As they passed the table where Ryan and Emma sat, Lily tugged on Victoria's hand. "Mommy, can I say hi to Emma on the way back?" "Sure, honey." But quickly. While Lily used the restroom, Victoria stood outside, checking her phone. She heard a crash from the main dining room, followed by raised voices. Curious and concerned, she hurried back. The scene that met her eyes was surreal. Robert Harrison was standing, red-faced and shouting at Ryan, who'd apparently spilled something on him. Wine, from the looks of the stain spreading across Robert's expensive suit jacket. "You absolute idiot! Do you know how much this suit costs? More than you make in a month, I'm sure. What kind of clumsy—" "I'm so sorry," Ryan was saying, trying to help but being batted away. My daughter reached for something and bumped my arm. It was an accident. I'll pay for the dry cleaning, of course. Dry cleaning won't fix this. This is ruined! Do you have any idea who I am? Victoria found herself, moving forward before she'd made a conscious decision to intervene. "Mr. Harrison, I believe the gentleman has apologized." Accidents happen. Robert turned to her, his face still flushed with anger. "Ms. Ashford, this person has ruined a $5,000 suit jacket. An apology hardly seems sufficient." Victoria felt something crystallize inside her. She looked at Ryan, who stood there with quiet dignity despite being publicly berated. She looked at Emma, who was crying softly, clearly upset that her special celebration dinner had turned into this nightmare. She looked at Robert with his expensive suit and his inflated sense of importance, and she made a decision. "Mr. Harrison, I think our business meeting is concluded. I won't be accepting your investment offer." Robert blinked, caught off guard. "What, because of this? Don't tell me you're going to let some clumsy laborer ruin a lucrative business relationship." "No," Victoria said calmly. "I'm ending it because you've shown me who you are, and I don't do business with people who treat others with contempt. Accidents happen. Grace and understanding are what separate decent people from people like you." She turned to Ryan. "I'd like to pay for the damage to Mr. Harrison's jacket, and I'd like to apologize on behalf of anyone who thinks wealth gives them the right to treat others poorly." Ryan shook his head. "Ma'am, that's very kind, but this was my responsibility." "I insist." Victoria pulled out her wallet and handed Robert several $100 bills. "This should more than cover your dry cleaning. Our business is concluded. Please don't contact me again." Robert sputtered, but Victoria had already turned away. She felt something she hadn't felt in years. Righteous anger on behalf of someone else. Not anger for her own benefit, but anger at injustice. Lily had returned and witnessed the whole exchange. She immediately went to Emma and took her hand. "Don't be sad. Your daddy didn't do anything wrong. That man was just being mean." Victoria looked at Ryan, who was still standing there looking somewhat shell-shocked. "I'm sorry you had to deal with that." "Are you okay?" Yes, thank you for what you did. You didn't have to intervene. I wanted to. I should have walked away from that man the moment he insulted my daughter. I'm just sorry I didn't do it sooner." Ryan gave her a genuine smile, one that reached his eyes and made them crinkle at the corners. "You have a very kind daughter. She and Emma seem to have hit it off." Victoria looked at the two little girls, who were now sitting together at Ryan's table, Emma showing Lily the certificate from her school that she'd earned for her report card. "They do," Victoria agreed. "And honestly, watching them interact has been the best part of my evening. Everything else." She gestured vaguely at the expensive restaurant, the remaining evidence of the dinner she'd been having with Robert. "Everything else feels hollow by comparison." "I know what you mean. I work long hours on construction sites, trying to give Emma the life she deserves. But moments like tonight, just sitting with her and listening to her talk about her day, that's when I feel wealthy. Not when I'm making money, but when I'm present with her." Victoria felt tears prick her eyes unexpectedly. When was the last time she'd felt present with Lily? Really present? Not just physically there while mentally reviewing work problems? "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said impulsively. "Would you and Emma like to join Lily and me for dessert? We have a large table, and it seems a shame for our girls to be separated when they're having such a good time." Ryan looked surprised. "Are you sure? I mean, we're not exactly dressed for a place like this. I only managed to get a reservation because I called in a favor from a guy I worked with who knows the manager. This was supposed to be Emma's special night, and I've kind of ruined it." "You haven't ruined anything. And who cares about clothes? What matters is the company we keep. So what do you say? Will you join us?" Ryan's smile was genuine and warm. "We'd be honored." They moved to Victoria's larger table, and the girls immediately started chattering away like old friends. Ryan and Victoria talked, and Victoria found herself enjoying the conversation more than any business dinner she'd had in years. Ryan told her about his work in construction, about how he'd been a single father since Emma was 2, when his wife had died in a car accident, about how he worked extra shifts to save for Emma's college fund, about how he tried to give her experiences and memories, not just things. And Victoria found herself being honest in return, about the pressure of running a company, about the loneliness of success, about how she sometimes felt like she was failing as a mother because she couldn't be there for every school event, every bedtime story, every moment Lily needed her. "But you're here now," Ryan said gently. "And Lily adores you. I can see it in the way she looks at you. You're her hero. Even though I work too much? Even though I drag her to business dinners and make her sit quietly while I talk about things she doesn't understand? Even though you're human and doing your best. That's all any of us can do. And from where I'm sitting, your best is pretty impressive." Victoria felt something shift in her chest. This man, this construction worker who'd been berated by someone who thought wealth equaled worth, was looking at her with respect and admiration, not because of her company or her money, but because he saw her as a person, as a mother trying her best. "Ryan, can I ask you another question?" "Of course. Would you and Emma like to come to the park with us tomorrow?" "Lily's been asking me to take her, but I keep putting it off because I have work. But I think maybe work can wait for one Saturday afternoon." Ryan's smile lit up his entire face. "We'd love that. Emma's been wanting to go to the park all week." And that's how Victoria Ashford, Billionaire CEO, found herself spending Saturday afternoon at a public park with a construction worker and their daughters. They pushed the girls on swings, helped them across the monkey bars, and sat on a bench watching them play. "This is nice," Victoria said, meaning it. "I can't remember the last time I just sat without my phone, without my tablet, without thinking about work." "It's good for the soul," Ryan agreed. "Emma keeps me grounded. Reminds me what matters." "What do you think matters?" Victoria asked, genuinely curious. Ryan thought for a moment. "Love, connection, being present, making memories with people you care about. Those are the things you remember at the end of your life. Not the hours you worked or the money you made, but the moments you spent with people you love." Victoria felt tears in her eyes. "I've spent 7 years building my company. 7 years proving I could succeed despite my divorce, despite people saying I'd fail. And I did succeed. But somewhere along the way, I forgot to build a life. I forgot that success without someone to share it with is just empty." "It's not too late," Ryan said gently. "You're here now. You chose to come to the park instead of going to the office. You chose to spend time with Lily instead of taking another meeting. That's not nothing. That's everything." Over the following weeks, Victoria and Ryan continued to meet. Park visits became regular occurrences. They took the girls to museums, to the zoo, to ice cream shops. And Victoria found herself changing. She started leaving work earlier. She stopped checking her email during dinner with Lily. She turned down meetings that would have meant missing Lily's school events. Her executive team noticed the change. Some worried she was losing her edge. But others, particularly the women on her board, pulled her aside and told her she seemed happier, more balanced, more like a person than a CEO robot. And Ryan became something Victoria hadn't expected. Not just a friend, but someone she looked forward to seeing, someone whose opinion she valued, someone who made her laugh and think and feel in ways she hadn't in years. 6 months after that fateful dinner, Ryan asked Victoria if she'd like to go to dinner with him, just the two of them, while Emma and Lily had a sleepover at Victoria's penthouse with a trusted sitter. "Like a date?" Victoria asked, feeling strangely nervous. "Like a date," Ryan confirmed with a smile. They went to a small Italian restaurant. Nothing fancy, just good food and good conversation. And over pasta and wine, Victoria found herself telling Ryan things she'd never told anyone. About her fears, her insecurities, her regrets. About how success had come at the cost of almost everything else. About how she'd been so focused on proving everyone wrong that she'd forgotten to ask herself what she was actually working toward. "I spent 7 years being angry," Victoria said,